Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today in this video, we will be learning about the loops in Python, which are fundamental for writing any efficient code. So majorly there are four types of loops that we are going to cover in this video, which is for, while, nested, and loop control statements. So the first loop that we have is for loop. A for loop typically consists of an initialization, a condition, and an increment or a decrement step. It iterates over each item in the sequence, performing the specific block of code for each iteration until the sequence is exhausted. For example, imagine you have a jar filled of coins of different denominations. You can use a for loop to count the total value of the coins in the jar. To understand more, let's run a sample Python program. I'm creating a new Python and saving is on my desktop. For loop. So here I am initializing a list with all the denominations of the coin. Here I have initialized the total sum as in 0. So here I am iterating it over the list. Total plus equals coin. And outside loop I am printing the total sum. Total sum of so here let me add some comment of denominations, and this for loop iterates over each coin denominations. So we should see the sum of all the denominations that we have mentioned in the list, which is 21, which is correct. So here basically the loops iterates over each coin, adding its value to a running total until all coins have been counted. I hope it is clear. So the next loop that we have is while loop. While loops are useful when the numbers of iterations is unknown beforehand and depends on the certain condition. They keep executing the block of code until the conditions become false, allowing for dynamic repetition. For example, suppose you are waiting for a bus at a bus stop. You can use a while loop to wait until the bus arrives. Let's see an example for this as well. So I'm going to use another program as while underscore loop py. I'm initializing a variable as that's a boolean variable which I have initialized as false. While not bus arrived, print waiting for the bus. User underscore input. I'm taking a user input whether the bus arrived or not. Did the bus arrived? Yes/no. And if user underscore input dot lower, I'm adding it as lower because you can put any value in the capital yes or no, but it will convert it into the lower and compare it with this lowercase yes. And bus arrived equals to true. after that, after a loop, I'm going to print bus arrived. So here, as long as you haven't seen the bus approaching, that is condition will be true. You keep waiting. Once the bus arrives, the conditions become false. You stop waiting and boarding the bus. Right. So here I will add wait for the bus to. So if I execute it, it will ask my user input bus arrived or no. I will say no. There again it will say waiting for us until unless it receive yes, it will continue the loop. As you can see, the moment I press yes, that means bus has arrived and it comes out of the program. Bus arrived. So that is the use of while loop. So the next loop that we have is nested loops. Nested loops enables the traversal of multidimensional data structures or the combination of different sequences. They involve one loop inside another, with the inner loop completing its full iteration for each iteration of the outer loop. Now imagine it as you are building a tower with a toy block. You can use nested loops to construct the tower by sketching block row by row. Let me give an example how we can use that in Python. Nested underscore loop dot py. I'm initializing the rows as 1, block underscore row as 1, 2. This is the list. Build the tower using nested loops. Now for row in range rows, and again inside this for loop I will add another for, making it as a nested for loop. Block in range block per row and row. Print building block plus 1 on row, row plus 1. So here the outer loop controls the number of rows, while the inner loops adds the block to each row. This process continues until the tower is complete. If you want, we can run it. So here it shows me an error like block per underscore row is out of range. List object is not callable. Because here I have to add it in a list, but I have added a curly braces, so now it should be okay. See, building block 1 on row 1. If I add 3 rows, then it should iterate. If you see the result, building block 1 on row 1, 1 on row 2, 2 on row 2, 1 on row 3, and like so on. So this is how we can use, there can be multiple use cases to use nested for loops, but this was a one. So the next loop we have is loop control statements. So loop control statements offer mechanisms to alter the flow of loop execution. So if you must have heard break. Break is a keyword that terminates the loop prematurely when a certain condition is met. And the another one is continue. which skips the current iteration and proceed to the next one. Else, execute a block of code after the loop finishes without encountering the break statement. So just for an example, consider you are playing a game where you need to collect items while avoiding obstacles. You can use a loop control statements to manage your action. Let's see an example. Item collected as 0, obstacles conquered as 0. While the condition is true, user underscore actions this is the user input, what will you do? Question mark. Collect or avoid. There's the two input that we have to pass. If user underscore action user equals user collect, then I want to increment the variables that I have initialized as 0 with +1. Items collected equals plus equals to 1. So there will be double equals to print item collected. Now I have to add else if, which is elif user underscore actions equals to avoid. In that case, I have to increment obstacle encountered by 1. Print here I will use continue because I need to skip this turn and continue the loop. Because here whenever the continue is encountered, it will skip the next iteration basically. Now after that we have else, and in else we will print invalid input. If somebody types other than collect or avoid, then it will go to into the else block. Now outside this, inside the while loop, I have to check if items collected is greater than equals to 5. That is, I'm checking for 5 items. That is my task, to collect 5 items overall. Print congratulations all items collected. And now after the outside the while loop, I'll print game over. And here, if you remember, I told you break statements are used to terminate the loop prematurely when a certain condition is met. So if my items collected is greater than or equals to 5, I don't want to continue the game because I won the game, right? That was my main task, to collect 5 items. So I'm adding a break statement here. So if you collect all the required items, you can use break statements to end the game early. If you encountered an obstacle, you use a continue statement to skip that iteration obstacle and proceed to the next challenge. Finally, after completing all the tasks, you can use an else statement to display the victory message. And if I run this program, I have to save that first. Save loops.py, and I will add control. And when I run this program, it will ask me my input. If I add a void here, it says obstacle encountered, so it has incremented the value of obstacle by 1. Again it's asking me, if again I have add, so it will be an infinite loop until and unless your condition is met, that is items collected should be equals to 5. If I write collect, then the count of item collected will be incremented by 1. So when that count items underscore collected reach 5, then the game will be completed and you will win. So if I have to write collect item collected 3, 4, 5, see, when the threshold limit was reached 5, which was 5, game over and we won. Congratulations. That is it for the video. If you found it, just give